Hello Year 6, I just thought I'd do a little video to help you out with the extension task today because some of them, they're quite challenging. So we're going to break them down a little bit and have a look at how we can solve them and make them a bit more simple. So you're going to have some problems that look a bit like this. This question says Linda is thinking of a number with 2 decimal places. That's your first little clue there. It's going to go into your hundredths. Rounded to the nearest whole, it's 5. And rounded to the nearest tenth, it is 4.8. So we need to be able to write 3 possibilities for Linda's number. Now, if we were going to start just with the first clue, we might think that 5 is the important number here. So we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'd pop 5 on there. And then we'd start thinking about, well, what numbers would get rounded to 5? So if we were going to think which numbers are higher and get rounded back down, we might think 5.1, and then 5.2. Oops. And so on. And then we would think, well, what numbers are worth less than 5 but would get rounded up? So we would have 4.9 and 4.8. But if we go on to read the clues in this question, it says that rounded to the nearest tenth, it's 4.8. And we know this is a 2 decimal place number. So actually, the number that we should be focusing on is the one in the second part of that clue, which is 4.8, because it has told us that to the nearest tenth, that's what Linda's number is. So now we need to think about, well, what numbers would get rounded to 4.8? So let's have a think which ones are larger and would get rounded back down. So we could have 4.81, so it'd just be 1/100th bigger. And then, of course, we would have 4.82 and get another 100th bigger. We would have 4.83. And you get the picture. The next one is going to be 4.84. And I'm going to place 4.85 on our number line. But we'll have a think about that one in a minute. So that is the end of our number line. And then, of course, we need to remember that there are numbers that are less than 4.8 that would get rounded up to it. So we have 4.79 would be 100th less than 4.8, and it would still be rounded back up. We have 4.78, which is another 100th lower. We'd have 4.77, and you've guessed it, 4.76. And the last one on here, the end of our number line, would be 4.75. So now we can start having a think of the numbers on our number line, which of them actually would round up to 4.8. So if we take a look and we start at 4.75, I'm just going to get an arrow so that we can draw that in. So I'm just going to draw a green one there. We know that this point here is exactly between 4.7 and 4.8. So we know that anything halfway or more will be rounded up to 4.8. So Linda's number could be any of these here, because we know once we've found the midway point between 2 numbers, and in this case we're looking at 10, so between 4.7 and 4.8, it would be rounded up to 4.8. But don't forget that we've got another side to look at here. Now 4.85 is the interesting value because that one is the halfway point between 4.8 and 4.9. So actually 4.85 would round up to 4.9. So we know Linda can't be thinking of this number, 4.85, because that would round up to 4.9. So what we need to think about then is the number that is just slightly lower than that one. So 1/100th lower, don't forget, because Linda's number has 2 decimal places. We're looking for the number that is 1/100th lower, and that would be 4.84. So anything from 4.84 lower would be rounded back down to 4.8. So you can see we've got a range here, and let me just highlight those. So we can just highlight those so you can see anything that gets rounded up from 4.75 up to 4.8, and then we're going to include all of those ones that are worth more than 4.8 but will still get rounded back down. So you can see we've got quite a big range there, and it only wants 3 possibilities for Linda's number, and you could pick from any of the ones that we've just popped into the box there. Now the second part of the questions you're going to be asked look a little bit like this, and it says Still, Linda's thinking of a number with 2 decimal places, so we're dealing with the same numbers. Rounded to the nearest whole, it is 5. Rounded to the nearest tenth, it is 4.8. And what's the greatest possible number it could be, and the smallest? Well, if you've worked out the first part to the question like we did, we had a little look and we knew that the numbers in this range here would all round to our target number, which was 4.8. So we're looking for numbers that round to 4.8 here, and they were all the ones in the little zone that we have here. So actually, these questions aren't too tricky if we've already solved the first part. So we know that 4.85 was too large because we talked about how that one is halfway between 4.8 and 4.9. So it would actually get rounded up to 4.9. So all we have to do then is come down to 1/100th less than 4.85. So the highest number, or the greatest value that Linda's number could be, we can answer that one already using the question that we've just solved. And we can see there the highest value is 4.84, and then we will come down the other end. So we were looking at numbers that are worth less than 4.8 but would still get rounded up. And do you remember we found the number 4.75, and that one's halfway between 4.7 and 4.8, and we know that if it's halfway or higher, it's going to get rounded up. So this is in actual fact the smallest number it could be and still be rounded up to 4.8. So the smallest number that Linda could be thinking of was 4.75. You're going to have questions that are very much like that, but if you do the first stage correctly and you think about the full range of numbers that Linda could think about, and that's going to help you with the second part.